Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please leave some love or share your thoughts below in the comments. And now, let's get started. Enjoy the show.
Hi, my name's Jillian MacLean. I'm the founder of 𝐬𝐭𝐸 and this is our episode of Smack.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Smack. In today's episode, you'll hear Jillian MacLean, founder and CEO of 𝐬𝐭𝐸, a collection of restaurants and bars in the UK. Jillian and I spoke about her upbringing in her parents' hotel, what finally led her to start her own entrepreneurial journey rather later in her career, and why she thinks the restaurant industry, although it has its challenges, is one of the most promising fields with immense growth opportunities for young people starting out. So let's dive right in and get started. Enjoy the show. Welcome, Jillian. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy day, as I just heard.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
So let's jump right in, I would say. When I was researching you, I learned a little fun fact about you. And so we're going to start with maybe a bit of a mean question in a way, but I learned that your parents, they owned a hotel in Scotland when you were growing up. So maybe, you know, what I was thinking when I read this, did you even have a chance to not go into hospitality, or how was it for you growing up?
Yeah, Patrizia, it was quite busy growing up actually, because ahead of going to school, I was generally on the mise en place for the toast marmalade, teas and coffees ahead of going to school. And then also coming back from school, I had the great fun often of being, before I was a waitress, washing the dishes quite a bit actually. So yeah, it was a very busy, fun family environment on the west coast of Scotland, which was very, very busy for the summer season. But we were very thankful that it was very quiet in the winter.
Okay, very good. So you always liked working in the hotel, or was there also like a period in your, I don't know, rebellious teenage years where you were like, oh, I cannot stand this anymore?
Unfortunately, I've never been a rebel. Actually, maybe that's going to come later in life. But yeah, I worked for my parents, and my mother's obviously Scottish, so she doesn't really believe in people having too much free time. If you have any free time, you're either volunteering or you're part of the girls' brigade or something like that. So no, we had a very full itinerary. I didn't have a chance for rebellion, but perhaps that might come later in life, as I said.
Very good, very good. And so tell us a little bit about when you finished school, when you were, you know, finding your way in, let's say, adult life. What drew you to F&B? Because also, like, when you look at hospitality in general, the F&B part of it is obviously the one that is most fun, but also the one of the toughest ones, like the toughest part of our industry. So tell us a little bit about how you found your way into this lovely world.
Well, I suppose growing up in a hotel, and then I had a part-time job in another hotel, which is quite funny, which is the company that I went on to work for a number of years. And the original part of the company that I worked in when I was training with them was to be a general assistant, which is basically covering all different departments of the hotel. And it was a hotel group called Osprey Hotel. So I went on to run a number of different hotels for them in Scotland, but one in particular in the Western Isles. And I stayed with that company for a long period of time, actually. So I hope one day, I know I'm in the bar and restaurant business, but I would like to actually be a hotelier one day. I really admire the people that have the chance to do that. And I'd love to be able to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a special, it takes everything from you, but it also it's so rewarding. So it's definitely a very unique kind of life and surrounding.
It's a wonderful life, really, even though, I mean, like any career, is pretty hard work, but the rewards are quite fantastic because I think the fact that you can create connection in people and people come to have a great time. And the other thing that's brilliant about hospitality is there's no barriers to succeed, really. And probably I come from a generation where people used to say to us, oh my goodness, how do women progress? But I always thought that hospitality, or I do think hospitality is a very inclusive sector and there are equal opportunities for all actually. So there's a chance if you're hardworking, got a good work ethic and prepared to be quite ambitious, that you can progress really far.
And you just said before you stayed with that company for quite a bit, and you decided to found your own business only later, within like over the course of your career. So, what made you like take that plunge? Because I don't know, it's always it can be quite intimidating, I assume, to then leave your let's say the life that you know and embark on this new crazy adventure.
Well, I would say probably being made redundant actually created an opportunity for me. And I went and worked in a couple of other different companies after that. And one of the things, I'd always wanted to do my own thing, but I'd probably never really had the money or had met the right investors. I had ideas on the concepts and such like. And then I was very fortunate to meet potential investors and also have the time to develop concepts and then actually get going in 2008. So
Hmm.
I always say to people, well, for anybody that has arrived late in life to be an entrepreneur, but actually I think it's never too late for anybody. I think it was a really good thing because I was very fortunate to have experience from corporate life
Hmm.
and great training, and a degree of experience and confidence ahead of starting up the business, which I think is really helpful, actually.
Hmm. Hmm. And you just mentioned that the first restaurant opened in the midst of the economic crisis in 2008. How was that? How did that come to be? How did you choose the site? How did that first project that set the groundwork for so much more to come? How did that all fall into place? Because I imagine it to be like a puzzle, like a very, very big puzzle where every little piece you need to find and fall into place.
Yeah, completely. Well, I think a couple of things actually. One of the things I thought there was a gap in the market for really a kind of female influenced bar and restaurant. And we'd spent a bit of time. I was fortunate, my sister lived in California and she
Hmm.
worked with us for quite a period of time, as well as having her own business. And she'd kindly done a really nice research list. We'd been to see different operators and such like. So we'd almost done a kind of blueprint for here's our new concept. Finding the site with the investors at the time was a really good thing to do. And we were very fortunate to be in a Landsec development. They're kind of one of Britain's largest landlords. And they also had a view that they wanted something new in the base of their building at Bankside, just by the Tate Modern. And they very kindly introduced us to the guys, the Time Warner building in New York, and we went out to New York
Hmm.
to meet some of the team there because those were the people that were going to be occupying the building, and we were able to talk to customers potentially about trends and different elements. So I think we started early on as a business to develop really good relationships with our landlords, our investor base, and we did quite a lot of work on the concept development. But I think also starting during a time of a crisis is a really good time to start actually, because you're kind of more creative because you perhaps don't have the capital, as much capital as you want. So you've got to be really creative about how you get going and such like. So we had great support from not only our investors, our landlord, and actually we're able to talk to a lot of customers that were potentially going to occupy the building about what they wanted. So they helped us tailor the concept as well.
Hmm.
So Drake and Morgan's not just about me, it's about a whole load of people in Drake and Morgan that have made it successful, of which my sister really, Amanda, should get quite a lot of credit because she helped us a lot with the concept development.
So Amanda, if you're listening, that was your shout out. And you just mentioned before that you thought there was a female, let's say, take on F&B or a female input into the concept missing. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I went to, of course, Patrizia, I went to a talk actually by a guy from Ogilvy, and one of the guys, I think was the managing director at Ogilvy, and he was talking about two women who had been in his team, who he really admired, who'd done a number of different marketing campaigns, and they'd gone on and founded their own business, and they'd written a book called Inside Her Pretty Little Head. And I bought the book, I read it, and it talked in the book. One of the focuses of the book was the growing affluence and influence of women, because female friendly is a bit of an overdone phrase, isn't it? But female influenced, I think, is quite an interesting thing. So one of the kind of nuggets out of the book was that women were responsible for influencing 80% of purchasing decisions. So you might, with your husband or your son or your father or your uncle, influence what they might buy. You might not be paying for it, whatever, but it was about this growing affluence and influence of women. And we tried to, with the team that we were putting together, really talk about that and think about that for the business. And I think that's really been at the kind of bedrock of what we do since the business, since its inception.
And that then had an impact on like the interior design, the kind of menu that you were offering, or how do I have to envision,
Well,
you standing at the chalkboard, trying to put everything together?
yeah, well, what we did was we did a blueprint. That's when we started what we call nowadays in the business our innovation trip. So we were very fortunate to go over to California. Probably sounds glamorous. It wasn't, Patrizia. It was kind of like cheap flight, big research list, and then going around looking at bar and restaurant operators that we admired and written to a number of them ahead of time as well. And we're fortunate to meet them. And because Amanda was based in San Francisco at that time, we spent a bit of time on the West Coast. Sophie Douglas from Fusion DNA, who's done our design since we started, our architect and designer, she came with us as well. And we went to look at a number of great operators, and then we started to put the blueprint together. Sophie is the designer, and Sarah and the team who work for her do the styling. We had a great group of people back in London, predominantly, again, female-led, who were developing the drinks and the food offer, the marketing and such like. And actually, when the business first started, it was predominantly women that were in the business, as well as us talking to customers. And of course, we didn't get everything right, many things wrong, but it's about actually taking the design, trusting Sophie on that, as looking at the layout. And we were really inspired by, as well, Danny Mayer, by Gramercy Park Tavern when we'd been in New York. And of course, we'd read the book as well. It sounds like we were doing reading because we were on planes setting the table. So that was one of the things that we thought the kind of whole pre-booking system that we'd seen in New York was fantastic. And a business I'd worked in previously had very much pre-booked business. So we tried to take when we were developing the blueprint to take the predictability of pre-booked sales. So our ambition was develop a world-class pre-booked sales model. So then you had predictability in your sales and EBITDA. Product-wise, bring some new, fresh, female-influenced dishes to the menu as well. We dealt with skinnygirl.com in New York, who trademarked skinnygirl.com, and we launched our first range of 10 cocktails. That was back in 2009, under 100 calories. So it was about really thinking about what was relevant. We worked with as well the Future Foundation, who were really kind to us when we started, because they gave us quite a lot of insight and trend data to talk to us about the forthcoming kind of top 10 trends that were coming. And then just as a team, we worked on the blueprint on the design, the drinks and the food offer, the pre-booked model, thinking about how we wanted to train our people, thinking about how we want to talk to our customers, and then how we would refresh the properties as well. So we've got Sarah, who works with Sophie, does our styling as well. So a bit like in your home, Patrizia, you generally refresh the cushions and paint and different things. And we've got a whole program internally that we do on little touches to do that as well.
So it really sounds like, you really approached it from a very much like a research, thorough, structured point of view, which I think is a very refreshing, or like a different take on it, because I think a lot of people think, oh, opening a bar or a restaurant, it's so easy. Let's just do it. I love going to a bar, so I'm sure I can do it. But no, it's so much like, because you really need to find that niche. You really need to be sure of your DNA of your product, because it's a crazy competition out there, right? So you need to really make sure that you know who you are and who you're targeting, and that you are reaching also that target audience, because otherwise you're going to be gone a few months later for sure.
Completely. I think the biggest thing is not to be precious. I mean, at the time we started in 2008, we had to be responsible as well because, we were raising money and actually people were personally investing as well as ourselves. So you've got to really think that through. And even although that was all a tax efficient vehicle, that comes with a responsibility. And you've got to really think about the business model, the business plan, the cash flow, the forecasting, and also that you want to kind of break even for the large amount of capital that we're spending pretty quickly and get a good return on the investment. So we had a good discipline around that, probably from our kind of from a corporate background. But the other thing that I think as well that's quite important is our model's 85% templated, 15% play. So it's very important to have a very structured and disciplined approach to the financials as well as the product. And I think the other point is not being precious. When you've launched something and are bringing it to life is then testing it with customers to get feedback and actually evolving it, because clearly not everything you do is going to work and such like. And I think it's very important to not be precious and fail fast if you've put things into the proposition that don't quite work. And our proposition, we did some brand proposition work originally with McCann Erickson, which was basically about being a bold, informed and surprising space. So bold spaces, informed in terms of we thought through the design and the product and the interior design, and then surprising was about our little touches and different elements that we went on to put into each of the sites and concepts that we developed.
And how do you, now, because it's still, I mean, the world has become even faster, and it's becoming faster every year, right? And there's so many things going on. We're becoming so global. You always need to be in the know about everything that's happening. How do you make sure that you're staying on top of the different trends? And yeah, just make sure that you are, although being true to yourself, but still going with the time. And, how do you stay on top of that? And how do you also decide, okay, what are we actually going to implement, going to follow? And where is like the line?
Yeah, so we have, the big thing I think is about staying relevant. And I think that then gets shared across the team, that people have responsibility. So in essence, we do a number of different innovation trips. A year the business does that, and we've got a number of people that we regard as people that we admire around the world that we track, and that might be on look and feel, design, marketing or whatever. So we track a number of people, and of course, as you say, there's a plethora of new things happening. And I think the person that kindly recommended me for our podcast is Emma Banks, actually, and she's a real force for good. And Emma, of course, is a super person in telling us and connecting us with what's going on in the Middle East as well. But in essence, for us, we run a number of innovation trips. We work with our partners and suppliers, our winemakers, to talk about actually what trends are coming in different elements. We have a number of business planning sessions throughout the year. I mean, the good thing with COVID all being in the rear view mirror, our rhythm of business is back. The last kind of rhythm of business proper was about 2018. And actually, it's taken everybody a period of time to get back in play. But from a sales perspective, our sales and marketing director, they travel, they keep a track of particularly a number of competitors who are doing well or things that we admire and enhance, and we look to say, how can we bring those things in? So say for instance, in sales, on our sales model, yes, we've been trialing chatbot, but we've had that in for a period of time. So we've got a number of things on the 85% templated and 15% play that we've always got an ethos of trying new things in the background. And they've generally got a 12 to 18 week turnaround in terms of making sure that they get the return on investment. On product, our exec chef, Rob Mitchell, who's been with the business since it was founded. He's got a very good pedigree, very good background actually. Trained originally at the Corner, worked in Australia and in France. He's been with the business for 15 years. Again, he heads up the food innovation and the creativity around that with his team and also with our partners. On drinks, we've got a guy, Alex Metcalf, who's our drinks trainer and developer, alongside people in our business. So we've got quite a reasonable discipline about how we approach things, and we've probably got over 50 people that have worked with us over the last 15 years that have gone on to set up their own businesses, not just in the UK, around the world. And we've got a nice network where we lean in to that as well. So, you could be busy looking at innovation all the time, but what we've got is it's the kind of lifeblood that runs through our business, that we keep a track of it. And there's a thing, Patrizia, I don't know if you've heard of it, an expression. We call it being out in trade. So it's out doing the walk rounds, looking at competitors and seeing what people are doing. But the big thing is about staying relevant, actually not diversifying too much. And then we have 3 menu refreshes a year, spring and some different summer dishes coming in, and then for autumn. And then, of course, Christmas is really significant in terms of sales and EBITDA. And we've got a team that head up and look at our innovation and creativity. And it's something that we talk about on a regular basis.
Very good, very good. And can you share maybe one thing about, now it's almost February, but the new year has started. Is there something that you are going to implement or going to focus on in this new business year that you have seen that you really want to put more emphasis on something in the business or in one location or across the different locations?
Yeah, if you stand back, our business is about 3 hours, kind of developing more reach, driving more revenue, and improving our reputation. So we've got a really good business plan in place for the next few years, and we've just been reviewing our annual budgeting and our annual business planning. And what we're looking at is probably our business trades to 4 time slots. One is for breakfast and brunch. So we've got the team looking at how to improve the breakfast and brunch offer. Actually, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, our Monday trading meeting down at Tasha's has opened at Battersea, which is beautiful. She's arrived from Dubai and brought her beautiful concept to Battersea Power Station. And we admire her very much and what they do. So some of the team are working on our breakfast and brunch offer, which will be refreshed and launched in April. In terms of our after work drinks and different elements, we've also got some new kind of sharing dishes, sharing cocktails, because people are really into even more connection and such like. And a big part of our business at the weekends is events. We do a lot of taste film. We also do a lot of daytime dancing actually as well. So the team are out in a few weeks' time in Ibiza, seeing some of the new opening parties. We do a thing called Full Fat Brunch with DJ Fat Tony, which is sold out. And we do a number of different events. So we're refreshing the calendar, because daytime dancing now and brunch has become quite a big thing post the pandemic in the UK. So probably in summer, refreshing our food and beverage offering for breakfast and brunch, also the post-work and the private parties and events for the weekends, and bringing some new fresh thinking into some fun events for the weekends for our customers.
And you've also, since opening your first business in 2008, you've grown quite a bit and quite fast as well. How do you go about growth? Is it more opportunistic when you see, okay, this is a great opportunity, let's try to get it, or is there a real because I myself work in development, so it's always really interesting to see how other businesses tackle their expansion, let's say, and so maybe you can share a little bit about that as well, if it's always been very different with every restaurant or bar you have opened, or yeah.
I think the key thing is that one of the key things when we started the business was to develop really good relationships with our landlords, because at the end of the day, we're a small footprint on the base of their building. We might think 5,000, 10,000 square feet is a big thing, but actually the main value in these office developments is the office tenant. It's learning from the landlord what the office fill is and what's going to happen with that, because that then develops our pipeline of sites, and that's the kind of rule. And we've got quite good discipline in terms of site criteria and location strategy. In terms of that, the team are quite disciplined around all of that, and also what other cities and places we go to around the UK. But our predominant focus has currently been London. We've only got one business now in Manchester. Probably through COVID and such like, we had expanded quite quickly. We took the chance during COVID, perhaps through we called it 3 phases. One was survive, because it was such a challenging time. And the next phase of the business was the kind of succeed in terms of really looking at the business and actually saying, are all the businesses here the right fit? And it was a time to right size the business. And then the third phase, of which we're in now, is thrive, which is actually thinking now again about the expansion strategy for the business, really. So we're probably, I would say, even more so since COVID, really more considered about where we might expand next. We've got some time in February, March, planning all of that. But the reality is we've had a fantastic Christmas, which I wouldn't ordinarily say, but it's been our best one in 5 years, which is wonderful for our customers, the teams and such like. And getting back to being profitable, growing our like for likes and having really good margins was a really important thing for us to create a good platform. So our expansion will kind of start in towards the latter part of this year and early next year, but it will be predominantly UK based actually.
Well, we'll just, still be waiting over here in the DACH region for you guys. But next time I'm in London, I definitely want to come by. I'm there end of February, so I'll
Well, come
drop
and
by one of
see
your
us.
locations.
Yeah, you
Yes.
must come and see us. It'd be really lovely to look after you.
And I want to switch gears a little bit and go back to something that you said earlier as well, that hospitality is such a great industry because also it provides chances to people from different walks of life, and if you're a hard worker, you usually can advance and get quite far. And you also said about, I think, and also in a podcast episode last year, you said that it's really important to you to create a female friendly business also within your group. And maybe you can share a little bit about how that came to be, and also how you are making sure that within your teams that is also being lived and supported.
Yeah, we've got, when the business started, given that I'd been in corporate life before, one of the things I was really keen to not have was to have a big head office. I wanted the business to be customer focused and the team to be based in the business. Clearly have a small kind of satellite office where our finance function could be based and such like, but basically so that people be on the ground listening to customers, supporting the teams actually. And the great thing really, that when the business started with Amanda helping me, Sophie being our architect, Roche and her team who do our PR, and we had a great lady actually, Christina, who did our marketing then as well actually. So that team of people worked really closely together. And I've not got all the answers, but within the team, everybody had such really good ideas. And I don't know what you find in your business, Patrizia, but I find that women, as a woman, irrespective of what sector you're in, women are exceptionally collaborative. They generally have very low ego, and they have a great humility. And actually, women like to collaborate and work together. So I count myself fortunate in some of the people that arrived as we started out, because that was the ethos when we started, and that's continued to be the ethos to this day. I will say we've got lots of guys in the business as well, and I think the thing for me is it's important for people to have a voice, whether that's in a trading meeting, a marketing meeting, our general managers meeting with the teams. We have briefings each day in the business at 11:30 and 4:30, where the teams are tasting products, sampling wines and such like, and we feed everybody every day in the business as well. And we've done that since the beginning, and even when we were much smaller, we eat together. And then, of course, you get the best ideas from everybody just having a bite round the table. So I think, irrespective of how big you go on to become, I think it's important to kind of keep those principles and those values of the collaboration, the integrity, the working together, and having a humility, and remembering why we're all here. Drinking is about our customers, as well as our teams, really, but it is about our customers first and foremost.
Mhm. And COVID has hit our industry quite hard. Obviously, in terms of the business performance, but also just overall going forward. A lot of people have left the industry. I see it myself with friends that graduated with me from hospitality school. They've left hospitality and they're probably not coming back, just because they also found out that they are valued, and their skills are needed in other industries as well. And so I was just wondering how you make sure that you attract good talent, and how also you work on retaining and actually keeping that talent with you and keeping them motivated, because I think it's going to be one of the biggest challenges going forward to actually position ourselves as a, yeah, not only a fun industry, but also one that is worthwhile and also yeah, respectful to the younger generation.
Yeah, you're completely correct. I mean, even ahead of COVID, Brexit was difficult for the UK as well. We lost really everybody across the sector lost really good people that felt, pretty unwelcome, and such like. And also, hospitality is seen as pretty hard work as well, actually. So, shifting generations, demographic, shifting nationalities, and such like, quite challenging. I think there's a really important thing in hospitality as a leader is to be consistent in good times and bad. And what I thought during COVID was at the start of it, when we were talking with the team about it, because we furloughed everybody, we had that in this country, which was really helpful. The government were so supportive. I mean, probably, I do believe they were in Germany as well, and great blueprints in France as well. But I think the key thing was to take care of people, not just about paying people properly, but actually respecting the kind of balance in life and different elements. And we didn't get right all the time, because sometimes probably people worked a bit too hard in our business. And actually, we took the time during COVID to really have a look at that. Chantel Christie, who's our head of people, she led all the COVID response and the recovery. Actually, she's done a fantastic job. And actually, listening groups, talking to the teams to actually say, how could we make things better? And when we started the kind of reopening post-COVID, oh my God, that was really hard for the teams, because if you think they'd been at home for quite a while, the customers had been at home as well. And actually, it was kind of everybody all being unleashed and not knowing quite how to cope with it. So I think that was actually, in a bizarre way, a harder time for teams than it was even after Brexit. And of course, there's been a normalising of all of that now. But I think there's a few things. One, respecting the balance that people want in life as well. So our workforce, the makeup has changed a bit to more part-time. We've got quite good longevity in the business. Our average length of service for our general managers is 5 year plus, and our chefs are more than that. So we've got a lot of people that have been with us for quite a long period of time. So I think, one, being consistent, being respectful of people, having the right plans in place so that people can advance with the business as well, I think is really important. And recognising as well that you need to be more flexible as an employer.
Mm-hmm.
A number of our employees wanted to go on sabbatical. I mean, they needed to really recover from COVID, because hospitality is so intense. And us just building a more flexible kind of approach to that, I think, has been quite an important thing as well. And we've had a big piece of work done by, led by Graham, our ops director, Graham Hall, which is our change and impact report. And that actually had a number of listening groups with our employees and our kind of Green Council to say, how can we improve? Almost like a youth advisory board. How can we become better? And what's the plan? And how do we get, I mean, we've just got excellent rating for it, because we've really listened to what do the teams want and how can we improve, as well as talking to customers. So we're not the finished article, but I think it's even more important in hospitality to show that there's a path that people can succeed. And quite a lot of people that work with us want to go off and run their own business. That's great, because we might have them for 2 to 5 years while they're learning with us. And we're delighted with that in terms of that. So, I think it's a fantastic industry. People don't realise how valuable it is for us, particularly to the UK economy. And part of all our responsibility as business leaders is to create a pathway for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what you mentioned before as well, with being flexible and open to listen, I think that's really two of the most important things. And the businesses that are not adopting that, or are not, let's say, open to also shift from just telling people what to do and how to do everything, to also actually taking in some of the input that is coming from the employees. I think those are the ones that will not survive, because it's just such a shift of mindset, accelerated by COVID, that it's really changing everything. But you're on the right track. I have no doubt. It sounds like you're a very empathetic leadership that you put in place, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, the best ideas come from our teams and our customers, and it's about listening to that, isn't it? And also, it's about being respectful of even when people put things in place if they don't work. You do not want to ever have a culture of fear where people feel they can't do something. It's also being reasonable to people to say, oh, well, it hasn't worked. Let's all fail fast and move on from it. It's absolutely fine. And celebrating the successes as well. I mean, at the end of the day, what is hospitality? It's a fun industry. It's not complicated. It's drinks and food, isn't it? And looking after people.
Mm-hmm. It should. That's how it should be. Well, Jillian, we're coming to the end of the episode. I always end my talks with the same question because I think it's just so important to pass on, experience and knowledge. So, if you could go back in time and you could tell your 22-year-old self, just starting out in the industry, one thing to remember that you have learned, what would that be?
I think to be more kind to ourselves. I would say, I think when you're younger, you're terribly worried about impressing everybody, and the person really you have to impress is yourself. And actually having, I think looking after your health, your nutrition, having balance, whether you're doing yoga, Pilates, whatever it is. But I actually think making time for yourself is a really important thing. I think having self-belief and I also think not working too hard, just really working on the right thing. So when I look back, I think I was probably of a generation where you thought to work really hard was the only thing to do. But I think having a balanced life is quite an important thing because you can succeed. But I mean, I've had and have a brilliant career in hospitality, and I'd recommend anybody to join hospitality because you can do whatever you want to do in hospitality, whether it be, our business is a fantastic business. And, I feel very privileged to have the chance to lead it, really.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for being on here and taking the time. And I would say I see you in London.
We're looking forward to looking after you, Patrizia, and also you as well, Mary. Actually, I hope it's just getting dark in London. You can probably see it, can't you, behind you? It's just about to be sunset, so it's going to be quite nice to go and have a walk by the water. I hope you are both going to have some time before your next calls to be able to refresh yourselves and have a bit of headspace as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this episode and everything else that is going on at Smack with us by checking out our website at smack.media or connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time.
Wow, great that you're still here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And there's much more where that came from. Check out all of our content on our social media. You can just subscribe them here below. Thanks, and see you soon.